Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk to you all a little bit about my journey with acid reflux and indigestion. It's a question I'm asked about constantly on Instagram, and it's one of the most common symptoms, I believe, of anxiety, and it certainly causes a lot of health anxiety amongst all of us that suffer with health anxiety. So I thought I would pop on and give you an idea of what I went through, and hopefully it can help you. I have had chronic indigestion and acid reflux now for about 14 or 15 months. It started when my dad got poorly back in July, August 2022. That was when my anxiety really started. When he got really poorly, I found it difficult to cope with that, and that's when my anxiety started. I was getting lots of other symptoms with the acid reflux as well, but I have to say, I think that the acid reflux and the indigestion was probably one of the first symptoms I got when I started getting anxious. I would get up in the mornings and I'd be burping all of the time. I'd have really bad pain in my upper stomach area, just below my ribs. I'd have chest pain, all sorts of symptoms, and for a while I think I just sort of ignored it and carried on as normal. But as the weeks went on, it got worse. The pain in my stomach got worse. I was burping all of the time, whether I was drinking water or something fizzy. I was getting a lot of pain behind my breastbone. I was getting a lot of upper back pain. My throat was sore. I was getting all of those sorts of symptoms. And at one point, my pain in my stomach got so bad, I could pinpoint it. I went to the doctors and I could show them exactly where it hurt in the top of my stomach. I could literally pinpoint it and say, the pain is there. And my doctor originally thought I had gallstones because of the pain in my stomach, because of the pain I was getting in my back. So he referred me for a ultrasound. So I went for my ultrasound, but that came back clear. I remember him saying to me on the phone, I am really expecting them to find a working great gallstone, and you'll have to go in and have it removed. But no, that all came back clear. My pancreas, he done my gallbladder and my pancreas, and they came back clear. And by this point, a few weeks on, it was even worse. I was getting a sore throat. I was getting upper stomach pain. Didn't matter what I was eating. I was in agony. Upper back pain that was going across the back of my shoulders and down my left arm. As I say, I was burping all the time. I was bringing up acid when I burped. I had so many symptoms. And then we tried, I think at this point, some PPIs. They sort of help settle the stomach acid. And I was put on one, and that did sort of help for a little while. But one of the side effects of the PPIs is stomach pain. So it began to ease the stomach pain, and then it came back with a vengeance. And I've been on these PPIs before, so I knew that this might happen. So I came off of those PPIs, and then I was put forward for a camera down my throat to have a look at my stomach. At this point, I was hoping that they were going to find something, because I was going to A&E all of the time because I felt ill. The pain in my stomach got so bad that I was convinced that they were missing something. I was in absolute agony, and I just felt ill every single day. I just had no energy. I ached like I had flu. I just didn't feel like me. I felt absolutely awful. So I went for this camera down my throat, and I remember thinking to myself, I really hope that they find something, and, you know, at least we can get it fixed, you know, and I'll begin to sort of feel better. And I had this procedure done, and it came back clear. They found nothing at all, which in a way is good. Obviously, they didn't find anything bad, but I felt rather deflated because I'm in this much pain and nobody can find, you know, what the problem is. I've had my gallbladder looked at, I've had my pancreas looked at, I've now had my stomach looked at. I had stool samples taken. Apart from a slightly raised calprotectin level, there was nothing found. So again, for weeks on end, I went through all different PPIs to try and help with this. I was on Gaviscon. The PPIs didn't suit me. I was getting all different side effects from those. So it was just basically Gaviscon. And I remember going to A&E this one time because I was in so much pain again, and I just felt ill. My legs felt achy, my arms felt achy, I just didn't feel well. And I spoke to a doctor there. He got me up on the bed and he felt my stomach, and he said, where does it hurt? And I said, you know, again, I could pinpoint where the pain was. And I said, are we sure it's not gallstones? And he said, no, I'm pretty sure it's not gallstones, but I think you might have gastritis. So I was like, right. So he told me what foods to avoid, and all of that. He said avoid spicy food, citric food, avoid caffeine, fizzy drinks. He said literally just fish, meat and vegetables, and give your stomach a chance to heal. And he could see I was stressed, and he said, you know, stress can also add to gastritis. Just go home and try and, you know, sort of calm down, relax. Avoid all the foods I've told you to avoid. Just fish, meat and veg. Give yourself a few weeks and, you know, hopefully it will start to ease. And I went home and I'd done all of this, and I must admit, but when I avoided, you know, all the greasy foods and all of that, it did help. My stomach pain did start to ease, so that was, you know, that was something. Because I mean, before I'd go out and get fish and chips or something like that. We'd go and get fish and chips and I'd eat them, and within about 10 minutes of eating them, I'd feel ill. I know at one point I also thought perhaps I had a food allergy, because there'd be certain foods that I'd eat and then I'd feel like I had flu like 10-15 minutes afterwards. And then I'd get the stomach pain again, and I'd get all of that. So I followed the doctor's advice and I just stuck to meat and fish, plain meat, plain fish and just veg for a few weeks, and that did heal up my stomach pain, so that was good. And slowly I sort of reintroduced all the other foods that I would eat, you know, the chips, the fizzy drinks, and I was getting some acid reflux, but it was bearable. It wasn't anywhere near as bad as it was. And I remember one day having breakfast. It was Cheerios, and I was eating them, and it felt like they were all getting stuck in my throat. Because that's another symptom that I'd have with acid reflux, is I'd constantly feel like I had something stuck in my throat. And I remember sitting at the breakfast table thinking, my breakfast is getting stuck in my throat, I can feel it. And we ended up going to hospital because that then worried me. I was convinced that my food, you know, wasn't going down my esophagus properly. And we ended up going to like they have like a GP department. So we went to the GP department in A&E, and I saw a doctor, and she was quite happy with the fact the food wasn't getting stuck in my throat. She said, I think you've got acid reflux. We're going to put you on some PPIs. And I said, oh, they don't agree with me. So she's like, well, we need to put you on something. she gave me some different PPIs that I hadn't tried before, and I sort of went home, you know, tried these tablets, and they did help for a few weeks. I think I was on them for about 8 weeks, but then I started getting symptoms, so I came off of them. But the lump in my throat had gone at this point. My upper stomach pain had gone, so that was good. I was just sort of left with chronic indigestion and acid reflux, and I sort of have been ever since. Instead of taking the PPIs, I take Gaviscon. I have gone back to eating normally. As I say, thankfully, after following the diet the doctor at the hospital told me to do, which was meat, fish and veg, my stomach pain cleared up. And once I'd been on about a 2-month course of the PPIs, I no longer felt like I had food trapped, because it used to feel like it would get trapped between there and sort of my middle of my breastbone. You know, it felt like it would all clog up there. So after being on a couple of months of those, that cleared up. But as I say, ever since, I've had chronic indigestion, acid reflux. So I've gone back to eating the foods like I would eat normally. I just, when my acid reflux and indigestion gets really bad, I've got some Gaviscon. It's the Gaviscon Advance. It's the strongest one you can get. And I'll just take Gaviscon sort of a couple of times a day. If I have anything to eat too late at night, sort of after 7, 8 o'clock, there is a good chance I'm going to get acid reflux. So before I go to bed, I will have Gaviscon before I go to bed, and I will sleep sort of propped up in bed with my pillows. Because if you sleep propped up, you stop the acid from your stomach coming up your esophagus and irritating your throat. Whereas if you lie down, you know, the stomach acid, you give it a chance to come up your esophagus and irritate your throat. So if you do suffer with acid reflux, it's a really good idea to sleep slightly propped up if you can. I know it's not always the most comfortable of situations, but it really does help your acid reflux. And, you know, we're 14 months on now, and I'm nowhere near in as much pain as I was. As I say, the stomach pain, I still get it occasionally. Nowhere near as bad as it was. Like today, I had a banana, and I'm in the car, and I thought, yeah, I've got a lump in my throat. I have a lump in my throat now with most things that I eat. I just know it's there. I know what's causing it, and I'll have some Gaviscon, as I say. But my camera down my throat came back completely normal. I am still quite anxious, although I'm not as anxious as I was a year ago. I am still quite anxious, so I know anxiety will add to my acid reflux. So, you know, I still know I need to get that under control. And now I just watch what I eat. I think I've spent so long being so uptight about everything that my immune system and my nervous system is probably still trying to regulate itself. So I just am mindful of what I eat. If I've got a bit of acid reflux, I'll avoid the spicy foods, you know, the greasy foods. If I'm eating late, I make sure I take some Gaviscon. Again, I'm just careful with what I eat, but my eating has gone more or less back to normal. But yeah, I just wanted to pop on because I get sort of every day questions about, do I get acid reflux? Do I get indigestion? Something else I'm asked as well is, did I have breathing problems with acid reflux? Yes, definitely. I still get them. I remember at one point, I think this is when I definitely thought there was something wrong with my heart or my lungs, because I would be fine when I woke up in the morning. As soon as I stood up out of bed to start my day, the breathlessness would start. And I've got an oxygen reader at home and my oxygen levels were fine, but I felt like I couldn't breathe. I felt like I couldn't sort of take a deep breath. I was breathing, but I felt like I couldn't take a deep breath. I felt like I couldn't get enough oxygen in my lungs. And of course, once we think we're having trouble breathing, we concentrate on it more, and then that makes the whole thing 10 times worse. But yes, I remember with my acid reflux, when it was at its worst, every day for months, I felt like I could not breathe. Once the acid reflux gets up in your esophagus, it can irritate your esophagus, which then gives us the feeling like that we can't breathe. We can breathe. It hasn't shrunk. Our esophagus hasn't shrunk. It's perfectly fine. It's just the acid irritating the esophagus. You can end up with something called esophagitis, and it's just where your esophagus becomes inflamed because of the acid reflux. You can also get pain, which I learnt the hard way, feels like a heart attack, because our esophagus runs straight down the middle, and sort of lies more or less next to our heart. So if we've got chronic acid reflux and we get esophagitis, it causes pain in our esophagus. Well, our esophagus lies next to our heart, and it can cause a similar pain to a heart attack. So acid reflux can indirectly cause an awful lot of chest pain from our esophagus becoming inflamed. So that's another good reason to, if you can, if you're not allergic to it or there's no other medical reason why, it's a good idea to take Gaviscon or something. Some, indigestion remedy is always good for indigestion and acid reflux. But yeah, I remember not being able to breathe. I'd get the chest pain. I got esophagitis. As I say, that's why I thought that I was getting all the food trapped in my throat, because my esophagus was inflamed, and I was getting the upper stomach pain, upper back pain. It was going down my left arm again. I then thought it was my heart. It was going across my shoulders, and I just felt generally unwell. I felt achy, I felt fluey. Yeah, so it can present in quite a few ways, and it's not always, well, it's never very nice to live with. I don't know about not always, it's never very nice to live with, but try adjusting your diet, avoiding spicy foods, citric foods. Chocolate, unfortunately, is another one. Fizzy drinks, tea, or caffeinated tea and coffee. Just try and keep your diet as bland as you can for a few weeks. If you can take something like Gaviscon, definitely take it before bed and prop yourself up to see if that helps. And take it after meals if you're suffering. What I would say is, obviously I'm not a medical professional. If you have got these symptoms and you have them for longer than 2 weeks once you're on the Gaviscon, go and see your doctor. I'm not saying there's anything wrong, just that they can give you different medications over a longer term, like PPIs and things like that, that can also settle the acid in our stomachs. So it's always a good idea to go and see our GP if after a couple of weeks of you adjusting your diet and trying an indigestion remedy, to see your doctor if it's not improved, and they can look into things a bit further for you and possibly give you some medication that's possibly a bit stronger that you can't buy over the counter. And obviously, just to check there's nothing else underlying. I'm pretty sure there's not. Indigestion is, a common symptom of anxiety, unfortunately. But I have to mention that there, obviously, because this is my own experience. I'm, not medically trained. So, yeah, that's about it, really. I just wanted to sort of fill you all in on how I deal with it, and hopefully help you guys out a little bit if you're struggling too. So, yep, that's it from me. If you liked my video, if you could give me a little thumbs up at the bottom. If you subscribe, then every time I put a video up, you will get a little alert from me. You can also find me on Instagram, and if you've got any other questions, please feel free to drop me a message and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Okay, bye for now.